Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. My name is Salvador Briggman, and today we're getting into the specifics of a Kickstarter campaign page. And now that sounds kind of boring until you actually learn about the person who's going to tell you about this. So what if I was to tell you that you would be able to speak to someone who launched not only 1, 2, or 3 campaigns maybe, but someone who has actually launched 22 campaigns on Kickstarter? How amazing would that insight be? I mean, to me, that's just like completely privileged to be able to do that and to be a fly in the wall while we're having this conversation about crowdfunding, about Kickstarter. It's just phenomenal. This is just phenomenal education. You're not going to get this anywhere else, this depth of information, this quality of information. So today I spoke with the creators behind the Oracle Story Generator Tarot Size Cards. This campaign raised over 2,000, attracted over the 2,000 backers, over 174,000 that's been raised. And this is for Nord Games. If you're not familiar, Nord Games is actually a product that's a little bit out of their norm. It's a little bit different from the other products that they launched on Kickstarter. However, it shows you that even if you're having a derivative product or something that's a little bit different, you can still be successful nowadays on Kickstarter. And the other thing I think it shows you is just the high level of output. Like the fact that someone can launch 22 games and do it reliably, it shows that, what I documented in my book, the Kickstarter launch formula, you can literally turn this process into a formula. And for someone who's just doing their first campaign, that might not be as relevant. But if you want to do another campaign in the future and another one, and you really want to spend time on learning the craft of how to do a Kickstarter, Indiegogo, learning the craft of how to do marketing, I think this is just going to be a phenomenal episode for you, because this goes beyond just like a one-off product. This is really building a foundation for the future. And why do I say that? I mean, you think about other things that you've learned in the course of your life, right? You've learned geometry. You did it once. Maybe you had a year or two in school, and then you never used it again, right? Or you learn about some esoteric philosophy, or you learn about Elizabethan literature or something like that, and you learn about it for a year, and then you never, read Wuthering Heights again in your life, right? Or you never read Moby Dick ever again because it's super long and no one ever gets through it, right? This is a skill set that if you invest into and you actually take the time to learn and to understand and to listen to the episodes I'm putting out, you can actually launch another campaign and another one. And this can turn into be a super valuable skill set for you, for your business, and for your future. And it allows you to not only be, I think, independent from other labels or other middlemen out there, but it really gives you that level of power and confidence to be able to do something on your own as a creative type and not be beholden to any of these people who just want a finger in the pie when it comes to what it is that you're doing. So to me, this is just like empowerment as a creative type, or as a physical product creator, as a designer, as an innovator, whatever you want to label yourself, as a business person, if you want to label yourself that way. I think that learning this skill set is invaluable. And that creator today who's launched 22 incredible campaigns, I think that is a testament to that fact that it's repeatable. If you learn this, you can keep doing it. And building that initial tribe is going to be so useful. It's literally like skiing downhill. Once you have a successful campaign, you can launch another and another, and it's skiing downhill because you're taking your audience from campaign to campaign, product to product, game to game. Nothing better than that. And to me, it's just so phenomenally exciting. So I hope you enjoyed today's podcast episode. I'm not going to talk anymore. It's coming up. Hey guys, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. We have a second time interviewee on the show today. This is for the project, the Oracle Story Generator Tarot Size Cards. This campaign has attracted more than 2,000 backers and has already raised 6 figures on Kickstarter. It's absolutely killing it, and I have the creator behind this project to talk a little bit today about it and also his inspiration behind it. I'm looking forward to getting into a ton of stuff with you. And welcome to the show, Chris.
Thanks, Sal. Thanks for having me.
How you doing, man? I'd love to, maybe you could just tell the listeners a tiny bit about this project and, kind of just delve a little bit into the story there.
Well, the project originally started as an idea that I had. How can we create interesting stories on the fly that sort of push us out of our normal tropes, our normal thought processes? I really like undead creatures, and I really like orcs and hobgoblins and stuff. So oftentimes I find myself making the same adventures over and over and over again. And I thought, well, they're still fun, but they could be so much better if I just went outside of my normal comfort zone. And so the idea of a generator where using cards, you essentially created like a Mad Lib kind of a thing where you just needed a who, what, where kind of a thing, like who did it, what did they do, where did they do it, that kind of stuff. And that's really where it started. If we can have a way of generating these things on the fly, maybe we can come up with some really interesting combinations that really take us out of our comfort zones and make for more interesting stories. And that was the genesis of it, basically. And it just got bigger and bigger from there, got more creatives involved with it in the team, and the team grew bigger and bigger. And now we have lots of people working on this and the future of the Oracle, looking at even NPC generators and potentially monster generators and that kind of thing. So it really started to pick up steam after we got more eyes on the project and more inputs. And at its core, it's meant to be something that it randomly creates things that work together, concepts that work together to make for more interesting stories.
And how does that start? Like, is that a conversation over coffee? Is that you're talking with your friends and be like, man, that'd be incredible if we could have something like that? Or is it just kind of you're doing your own research and you come up with these ideas? What does that process look like when you're forming that original idea?
It can happen in a myriad of different ways. Sometimes it's a conversation while around the table. And wouldn't it be nice if, and then fill in that with, if we had a cool, different set of dice, if we had a cool notebook to keep track of our adventures in, if we had this tool or that tool, and it can start anywhere. I think in this case, it started with me probably late at night doing some writing and thinking, I really want to break outside of my comfort zone, break outside of the usual box that I stay in. And I thought, what if we had a way to roll on a table or draw cards and generate something that would be a way to really get those creative juices flowing? And then I started to talk to friends and coworkers about it and really started to put together more of a structure to it. And like I said earlier, it was like a who, what, where, and then it added, we had the how in there and why, and really started to flesh out all these different card types or concepts on each card. Because originally it was actually every card had a who, what, where, why on it. And that really wasn't going to work because it didn't universally work with every other card. And the idea was you draw multiple cards and you take the who from this card and the what from this card and the where from this card, and you'd combine them all together. But really it didn't work as well as what our structure became after that. And that was basically, we all got together and talked about, well, how could this be better? Because this is the basic concept and we like it, but how could it be better? And you get more and more people's opinions on it. And eventually it came to the structure that we currently have, which is now you draw an actor card, you draw an action card, you draw a subject card and an intent card and a development card. And those 5 cards all have a lot of content on them and a lot of different options on them to make them very versatile. And every single deck mathematically has 254 million combinations that they could create. And I think that combined with all of our own creative input and experience makes this a product that has unlimited scale.
So for you, it seems like the creative process kind of starts with the gameplay and you have an idea of it and then you kind of put that into the real world, see how it does, fine tune it a bit until you kind of get the gameplay down a bit more. Is that kind of where it starts for you then?
Yeah, it's hey, I would like this thing that would help me in my game. And in this case, it just happened to be the storytelling aspect of the game I would like to improve upon. And that's what led me to go down this road.
Now, at any point in that process, do you ever question yourself like, this might be a little bit too niche, or I don't know if enough people would want this to really make a full-blown product, or are you just kind of ignoring those thoughts and just focusing entirely on, developing something that is working and if the gameplay works?
Yes, we all experience that. I wonder if anyone actually cares about this. Will anyone actually want to buy this? And why am I putting so much effort and energy into this? But very easily you can put it out to the world and ask other people. And what we do is we put out surveys. So within our company, we've got a pretty large customer base, and we say to the customers, hey, we're working on a thing. We want your opinion about this. And oftentimes we'll ask them things about like, what do they feel the value is of it? What do they think the price of this item should be? That kind of thing, because we don't want to put out a product to the market that a vast majority of people are like, no, you guys missed the mark. Instead, we want the minority of people to say, I'm not interested in that. We want it to have mass appeal. So going the survey route has certainly been helpful for us, but there's sometimes where you don't have access to that kind of thing. And instead, you just got to go with your gut and think, well, I believe that this product is useful. I'm going to put it out there to the world, and on a platform like Kickstarter or Indiegogo or any other crowdfunding resource like that, you get to see what the world thinks of it as long as you get enough exposure and you get enough people who are interested in it. And that's where you see things going viral and that kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. And I think too, while you're going throughout that process, you're kind of discovering, you're getting a sense of what do people like, what do they not like. So it obviously changes a lot during that entire stage. What would you say is like the ratio of ideas you have to the ones that actually become products? Is it like a 1-to-1 where you have an idea becomes a product, idea becomes a product, or do you have a bunch of them that just don't make it to light that we don't see?
Well, oftentimes those ones that don't make it to light are actually cool elements that get incorporated into other products. So you have an idea that really can't stand on its own as its own product because it's just not big enough or it's not that necessary. But it is something that could be incorporated into another product. Like you want to do a book all about trading posts. Well, maybe that's not a big enough subject to really fill a whole book or be that interesting. Instead, maybe add in villages, towns, and cities, and now you've got a book. Now you got a resource that seems like it's got the right amount of value.
Mhm.
And I see some people, they put out something that's like a 1-page thing for $5 or something like that, and maybe there's good value in that, but in other cases, maybe people look at that and go, well, I'm not going to pay $5 for a thing that is just 1 page of content. And yeah, it's let's say a whole adventure on 1 page, and that's kind of maybe the appeal of it. But you might miss a lot of the audience who is more accustomed to buying for that $5 or $10 or $20, buying something that has much more content in it. So you have to be aware of your audience and aware of what other products are on the market that you're going to be competing against.
Yeah, totally. And sort of the genre that you're fitting in there, et cetera.
Yeah.
What role would you say that math plays in creating this kind of unique emotional experience for the player? You mentioned like math combinations and that kind of stuff. I'm just kind of curious on your take on that.
Well, I mentioned the math of the Oracle just because the number of combinations. You've got 5 different card types in a deck, and each card type has 4 different options on it. Mathematically, that comes out to about 254 million different combinations that you could have. But as far as math, when it comes to the creative process, I think that the only thing that math plays a role in is just the sheer possibilities. When it comes, we all love rollable tables, and there's chances and there's rarities and all that kind of stuff. As far as a creative process, I would say sometimes you find some really fun mathematical things that work out perfectly. Like you say, well, we went from a 50 card deck to a 60 card deck. Well, that's going to throw off all of our numbers because now we can't do a D100 roll, where we've got 50 different outcomes. Well, yeah, but you can do multiple D12 rolls, and that shouldn't be a problem. So like sometimes you accidentally end up with something that mathematically works out just fine, and that can be very appealing. But from a creative standpoint, I would say that really get into the elements that are going to be useful for people during their creative process. Don't worry too much about the math, but if you can make it work, like especially in tabletop role-playing games, if you can make outcomes equal to the various die rolls, D4, D6, D8, D12, all that stuff, then there's more usability that way. I know a friend of mine who does publishing of books that are all D30 rolls. And I'm like, why are you making D30 rolls? And he was like, well, because it's kind of weird and unique, and there are D30s you can get. So he sells cool D30s and D30 supplements. So if it works out in that way when it comes to role-playing games, and you can have cool outcome rollable tables with outcomes that are equal to one of the various dice denominations, cool. But I don't focus too much on the mathematics when I'm doing the creative process.
Got it. So one other quick follow-up question before we start to talk about the Kickstarter a little more is just I noticed you compared also the game using the word like tarot size cards. Was that like a marketing choice on your side, or is that just kind of how you were describing it? Because I've noticed tarot cards just are so big now on Kickstarter, right? It's insane.
We had to differentiate that these are not tarot cards. They're not the typical 78 cards with all of the different, lady and knight and all that kind of stuff on them that people would normally use for, the mystical art of reading, future and all that kind of stuff. It's not that. This is a tool for storytellers and dungeon masters in role playing games for story creation. We used the title we did because we wanted to differentiate that it wasn't actually tarot cards. These are tarot sized. And the advantage you get with tarot sized cards is that you can fit a lot more stuff on them, a lot more content. You can also go with larger font size. Typically, we publish our stuff in a poker-sized card format, which we're actually going to be revamping in the near future to all tarot-sized cards because of the size difference and how much more content you can fit onto them, and also more, easier to read because of the larger font size.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. I mean, I'm just scrolling down your page here. The fonts you're choosing, the colors, the artwork. It looks phenomenal, man.
Thank you. Yeah, we've got a great team behind it. And full disclosure, I'm the one who created the logo. I'm the one who created the general look and feel of the cards with the pastel-y colors. Art director Ralph and our graphic designer Jay jumped in and really went to town on everything that I had started to create a couple months ago, and we ended up with what we have on the page now. And even still, those design elements on the Kickstarter page are now being incorporated into the actual final version of the boxes and the cards that are going to be going to print.
So when it comes to this project, I mean, you've launched a bunch of others. I think this is what your 22nd project you've launched.
I think that's about right. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you think about marketing nowadays? Because you've obviously built up a career of doing these particular types of games and type of work, and this is kind of something new. How did you introduce the audience to this? How did you market it and get people excited about it this time?
So on the back end, I can actually see how many new backers we have compared to repeat customers or people who have backed our previous projects. And we actually appear to have more new backers on this project than any other project. Usually we run around 50-50 or maybe 52-48 or 55-45, that kind of thing. And this one, we're seeing a significantly larger portion of new backers. And so that means that our outgoing marketing, so the marketing that we're doing to try to get new customers is very effective. And it's working really well. So that being said, the way that we've been able to acquire new customers over time is just continuously put out a quality product, something that has value, and also not only value when it comes to the content, but also has been printed on good materials, has been manufactured well, and when the final product arrives, the customer opens it and is very excited and happy with.
If you're worried about the fulfillment and shipping part of your Kickstarter campaign when it comes to getting out all those perks and rewards to your backers, rest assured, I've put together a complete Kickstarter fulfillment and shipping checklist for you, and it's free. This is sponsored by the folks at Fulfillrite, and they thought that you should have this checklist as part of your arsenal going into a crowdfunding campaign. If you want to get instant access to this checklist and it's free, you can go to fulfillrite.com/checklist. Again, that is fulfillrite.com/checklist. Fulfillrite.com/checklist. Just go to that link and you can download it immediately.
The final result, and it is of value to them. I've seen many companies come and go because they will raise a lot of money on Kickstarter, and then they'll put out a product where they could have spent, let's say, $1 extra per unit, and they could have had a fantastic quality product, but instead they decided to save the money, and it ended up costing them customers because they put out a product that was on cheaper paper, or the colors weren't as good, or they went with a matte paper instead of glossy because it was cheaper or whatever. So there's a bunch of different examples of how not to get to the very end of the race and fall on your face. Instead finish strong by not cutting corners, not going for the cheap option, and you'll retain a lot more customers that way. Additionally, customer service is super important. You need to be available for the customers, and you need to be able to solve their problems in a timely manner. Anytime that we've ever had customer service issues, we're immediately solving the problem, sending them a new unit if a unit was damaged in transit, refunding them if for some reason they ordered too many of a certain product or whatever. There's all sorts of confusion that can happen, but the main thing is put out a good product and have good customer service.
The other thing I notice is it's almost like if you were to go into a board game store or a shop and you saw this, you would want to buy this just looking at it. It's kind of that feeling almost, right? And just looking through your page, it's very subtle, the marketing. So like you can see on the first image there, it's a GIF, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just like very slowly moving.
Mm-hmm.
Or you scroll down, you can see the different headers, and there's just like that little bit of shadow like on that makes it pop.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have much more of like a subtle kind of branding appeal there than more just kind of in your face marketing, I noticed.
Yeah, we wanted this to have this mystical feel and to not smack you over the head with a hammer, but instead have these beautiful colors, beautiful artwork. The pastels was a very purposeful choice to make sure that it had a certain look. And
the parchment,
yeah, parchment, pastels, very low opacity faded imagery in the background of each one of these parchment pieces. You can just barely make out there's artwork on those parchment pieces. It's very much meant to be subtle and not just smack you over the head.
Got it. The other quick question I had on the marketing side was, I think a lot of beginning creators will shy away from marketing outside of their home country, let's just say like United States, because they don't understand shipping or they don't want to deal with shipping internationally. What are your thoughts on that for beginning creators? Should they engage the international community when it comes to running a project, or is this something that they should do as they get more seasoned and veteran, kind of like you are?
There's a couple different schools of thought. One is that you should market worldwide, and if the customer is willing to pay for the international shipping cost, then a sale is a sale. The other way is to say we're only going to start in the US, or let's say North America, because Canada is not difficult to ship to if you're a US based company. And equally so if you're a European based company. I've talked to a lot of European folks who will say, I don't want to have to establish myself in the United States and all the complications that come with that. But anyway, you go where you might be excluding a certain country or region, you're excluding a customer base. And there might be a lot of people that want your product that then can't get it. I think the best solution is to do what's right for your company. And if you don't have the resources to be able to work with a fulfiller in a certain region, or you don't have the expertise, totally fine. If this is your first project and you just want to keep it simple and stay in your home country or region, no worries. But I will say that there's a lot of companies, Nord Games included in that will help to do that, help for you. We have multiple warehouses now across the globe that we've partnered with to do our fulfillment in those regions. So Canada, UK, Germany for the rest of the EU, because Brexit and all that stuff, and Australia. And they handle New Zealand and some of the surrounding areas. So partnering with a company like Nord Games to handle fulfillment for your project can be a way for new creators to reach that audience and get established in those other areas. I think our breakdown right now is North America is about 60% of our total business. Europe is about 30, and Australia is about 10. So Australia includes New Zealand. So if you applied that model across the board, and these are areas where people read and speak English. We publish in English, and these regions where we mostly see our sales, a little bit in South Africa as well. But let's just say that if you standardize on that kind of a breakdown, you might be, if 60% is the number of the people in your total, and your 60% represents your North American people, you're maybe missing out on 40% of the market for your product if you're publishing in English. So that's a consideration. And that's something to be very aware of, and make sure that you don't sell yourself short. Early on, start figuring out fulfillment before you ever get to any other, marketing. Figure out your production, then figure
Totally.
out your fulfillment, and then start
Well
looking
said.
at marketing.
Yeah, definitely well said. Another big trend that I think everyone's noticed in the last year or two is just this massive inflow of people who are doing things like live streaming, right?
Mm-hmm.
And are doing Twitch and are doing YouTube streaming and Instagram, etc. It seems like you guys have also been kind of dabbling a little bit with that, right? What are your thoughts on that? Is that something that beginning board game creators should be thinking about doing or incorporating it almost as their marketing? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's been very helpful for us to have a platform where our customers can see us and see us interacting with each other. And I think that's the biggest value that streaming has. One little stream can explain so much more than a whole page of information about that product in some cases, because you can just hold up that product and say, this is what I love about this book from Kobold Press, or Lore Smith, or Nord Games. And you get, I think, a bit more connection with your viewers or with your audience, because the alternative is they're reading your words or they're seeing you talk and interact with the product.
Mm. One of the things I've also seen a lot of other creators trying to do is create their own sort of micro communities. So like a Discord channel or a Facebook group or those kinds of things. Have you guys experimented at all with those types of marketing?
Well, so I'm 37, and I've been into, computers and stuff my entire life, but I am not up with all the latest and greatest on the social media side and all that. So, and that's definitely a place where we've identified we need to be doing more. So, as far as that's concerned, like our social media presence and live streaming and stuff is I would say a portion of that. But if you can have a strong social media presence, you can have a large community around your company, then you can be wildly successful. I've seen some creators who literally launched their first project, and you would think they're going to have a big uphill battle. Well, they have such a large Reddit community, or such a large Facebook community, or TikTok, or YouTube audience, that they fund immediately and astronomical levels. And you're like, good on you, because they put in that work making their channel great or getting a big following on whatever social media platform. So obviously that has paid dividends. So if you are looking at different aspects of marketing and you see social media as one of them, I would say build a community around a social media platform.
Totally.
And that's going to be your strongest way of moving forward with that platform.
Well said. So I just have one or two more questions for you here. One of them is that, I think you've identified, you've been doing a lot of great work, obviously, with these Kickstarter campaigns. You're trying out something new. What would you say that you're most proud of when it comes to this legacy or this adventure of building this brand and being able to do this full time and build up the company? Like, what's something that you're really proud of having contributed to, whether that's the tabletop game niche or, the gaming industry? Would you say you're proud of contributing there?
And there's a lot to be proud of. I think let me answer it in two ways. One, building a very, very close team of creators and support staff in our company. We are, as far as employees are concerned, we only have about 10 employees, but then we have contractors and people we do freelance work with, artists, writers, and all that. And if you started to add up all those people, we're getting to like 50. It's an incredible team to have built. And being the one who was central to building it, I don't want to take all the credit because we've got a lot of people who have been influential in that, but I am the captain of the ship and I am responsible for which direction we're going at any given time and who we're picking up along the way. So the fact that we've been able to build such a great team is something to be very proud of. And I am very proud of that. The other side of things, where being proud of our products that we're creating, I would say I'm proud of every single product. Like, you can't pick your favorite child, you can't pick them and say this is my favorite. I'm proud of every single one of them, but I think it's more the reaction I get from people sending me an email saying, I don't know if this is ever going to reach anybody, but we really enjoy the products you're putting out. I play with my kids and my wife every weekend, and we love the Settlements book. It's been very influential on my campaigns. Or I'm at a convention and someone walks up and I'm running a game, and they stand and they watch. And after there's a portion for a break, they get to talk to me and say, hey, I just wanted to say hi and say that your critical hit decks are one of my favorite products that you guys put out. That's, I think, what I get so excited about when people in the real world are having real world changes.
I love how we say the real world,
well,
as though this is not real.
Well, our product. Well, what I mean is like meeting people in the real world, or
I know what you
their
mean.
lives are positively changed because of what me and my company have created. So
yeah, totally.
That's something to be proud of.
Yeah, I think so too. And that feeling, I imagine, is great and very rewarding in that way. So my last question for you here is, you guys got, like you said, 10 staff members, you got freelancers, a bunch of people helping you out, a massive team here. For someone who's listening, do you think it's still possible to do that this year, to build a company from scratch using crowdfunding or using the tools we have available online to sell and to create a board game company? Do you still think that's possible?
Yes. I've been in it for, really 2016 was when I needed to go and, make a decision. Am I going to do Nord Games full time, or am I going to go work for somebody else? And since 2016, we have seen better and better revenue every year, more and more products being put out every year. 2020 was rough. Let's not, mince words. It was a rough year, but there's nothing stopping any new creators from putting out something that is awesome and has good value and has a mass appeal. So and if all we do is think, well, that's not going to sell, then we've defeated ourselves before we even set off. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I would say to any new creator who has an idea, just keep on working on it and look at other products out there that might be similar, or look at how other creators have run their Kickstarter campaigns and see if there's something about those campaigns that you can learn from and build off of, if possible. Additionally, don't be afraid to reach out to those creators and say, hey, I have a project, but I need some guidance. You'll find that most people in the community are very friendly and very helpful. I have never turned anyone away and said, you're not worth my time, I don't want to help you. Because guess what? You are where I was a few years ago. So if I did have a mentor at that time, but if I can be a mentor to somebody else and I want to do that, I don't know anybody in my circle who doesn't feel the same way.
Love it, man. Where can people go to learn more about your current campaign and also some of the stuff you got in the works here?
Well, you can go to our website, nordgamesllc.com. On the front page, you'll see the Oracle sitting right there, and there'll be a button to go directly to the page. We've got 8 days left. It's going to end on July 8th at noon Pacific Standard Time. We're going to be doing a countdown live stream, so that'll probably start around 10 o'clock, and we'll just be showing off the product and making more and more cool combinations. And what we typically do is we go around the table, and we're all virtual, but each person takes a turn and they draw cards and they create a story for everyone to take if you want. We have people on the chat say, well, I'm totally stealing this. I'm like, yeah, go for it, because that's one of 254 million combinations that we've got, and
yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Exactly. So it's going to be a great time. But yeah, we've got a little over a week left, and you can go find out more information on our website.
Awesome. Chris, thank you for coming on. Appreciate it again. And thank you for sharing all those great insights and tips, and look forward to your next launch.
Thanks, Sal. Appreciate it. And for everyone out there who's listening, hope you're having a good day, and happy gaming.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Again, my name is Salvador Briggman. Been doing this as a labor of love for many years, and one of my favorite parts about interviewing these creators is just learning about all these new techniques and learning about all these new ways that you can actually smash it with your campaign. You can have a killer project, and I always love learning and downloading new information in my head. I think this is one of the best ways to stay on the cutting edge, is just to listen to people, right? Open up your mind, open up your creative faculties, open up your heart, and really just listen to other people's stories. They might not be in your same category. They might have a different category where you're launching your project. However, if you are receptive, if you're open-minded, you can discover tricks of the trade that you will literally find nowhere else. It's like finding buried or hidden treasure, right? So by listening to these stories, by taking notes, by paying attention, it can really, I think, it's almost like you're aware of the future. If you're trying to go down a hill, right, and there's a curb and you're not sure what's behind the curb, you'll know whether it's something that's opportunity or there's going to be a cliff that you want to avoid and you don't want to go down that curve, right, if you're going downhill. To me, this is one of the best things you can actually do when it comes to launching a campaign for the first time. And if this is not your first time, you're doing a couple of them, still, it will help you get in that mindset of what is possible, what's working nowadays, and really tuning into the same dials that other creators are out there and just hearing directly from them. So one of the other resources I recommend is to check out my free course when it comes to Kickstarter. No brainer. Just start listening to those videos and start listening to some of these training contents that I put together for you. It'll be really easy, in my opinion, to get started if you're a newbie. That link is crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter, crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter. Just go to the link crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter. That link will take you to a page, enter your name and email. You can start to join my free course there and start to download some of this information into your head. In addition, if you want to get started and you're like, Sal, I just want more audio content, I got a great audio book for you, The Kickstarter Launch Formula. You can check that out at crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio, crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. And finally, if you want to reach out to me personally, I am getting quite overbooked nowadays, but I still obviously do take communications. You can always go to my YouTube channel. You can go to my website, crowdcrux.com. You can reach out to me there. Can't guarantee a reply. As I said, I'm getting a lot of inflow nowadays, but I do appreciate you, and I will do my best to get to you as soon as I can. I appreciate you so much. Thank you if you leave a rating and review on this show. It would mean the world to me, and I will see you next time.